We have a great show tonight, and I'm sure all of you know it because you're all here. And it is so good to see so many new faces, because I know half of you half as well as I would like, and a lot less than half of you half as well as I should.
Right?
I like half of you half as well as I should, and I like less than half of you half as well as I like. So for those of you who don't know, I'm Glenn Kyle. I'm the Executive Director here at the Northeast Georgia History Center. We have these forums every second Tuesday of the year except for December, because there's this thing called Christmas that people go off and they travel and we don't necessarily get them. But that is not so in September. Tonight, we have Miss Vicki Starnes, who is with the Crawford Law Museum, and she's been there 12 years, she told me, come November, and she has a great presentation. So to keep us going, if you'll excuse the noises, we bring a couple more chairs in for the people that don't want to sit on the front row. We will go ahead and get going, and I will turn down the lights and let Vicki take you on a historic journey. Thanks so much.
Great. Sounds turned up. Can y'all hear me okay? All right, good. Well, I'm really thrilled to be here tonight, especially to see such a full house. I'm always happy to tell Dr. Long's story and talk about the museum, the Memorial Museum that's in Jefferson in honor of him. So, it's really hard to imagine that history was made and that America's greatest contribution to medicine actually happened in the little town of Jefferson. I don't know, have any of you ever been to the museum before? Oh, okay, a handful of you have been there. So it's really, when you think about all of the advancements in medicine that were happening back in the 1800s, it was most of them were coming out of Europe with the Pasteur and Lister, their germ theory. So for us to be able to claim that anesthesia was discovered here, and especially in the little town of Jefferson, that's a big deal. I'm going to show y'all. Yeah, thank you. So who was Dr. Long? He was actually the discoverer of anesthesia. He was not your ordinary country doctor. He was really well educated for his time. Less than 10% of the doctors back in the 1800s even had a formal medical degree. What they did was they would kind of study medicine under a local doctor, like an apprenticeship. So Dr. Long was born in Danielsville, which is in Madison County, and he actually entered UGA, which was called Franklin College at the time, at the age of 14. And I know, a little different nowadays, but after he graduated, he went back to Danielsville, and he taught at the Danielsville Academy because his father was over that, and he really decided that he wanted to pursue medicine. So he went to Jefferson. That's why he ended up in Jefferson, to study under Dr. Grant. He was the town doctor at the time. And then after studying with him for a while, he decided he really wanted to pursue a formal medical education. So he went on horseback. Now remember, it's still frontier times, and there were Indians out there, so it was kind of dangerous. He went on horseback from Danielsville to Lexington, Kentucky, turned to the University of Pennsylvania, and he graduated from there in 1839. And then he did something that was unusual back then, but is actually required today. He went to New York, and he walked the halls of the hospital. And that would be pretty much like a residency, which is required today. So when he came back, when he returned to Jefferson, he purchased the practice of Dr. Long, and he became the town doctor. He actually moved back to Jefferson in 1841, and then in 1842 is when he made his momentous discovery. And there was a fad back in the 1800s known as frolic parties. That was the time of the traveling medicine shows. and people would observe, people acting silly because they've inhaled laughing gas. So the college students wanted to have frolic parties, and they would come to Dr. Long and they would ask him to get some nitrous oxide. Well, he couldn't get that, but he knew that sulfuric ether had the same exhilarating effects. So that's what gave him the idea that he could do painless surgery. So so James Venable was his first patient, and he was a college student, and he had attended frolic parties before. So he had these two cysts on the back of his neck. This is a sketch of the diorama that is actually on display in the museum. And he didn't want to have it cut out because he knew it was going to be painful. Because before anesthesia was discovered, the doctor would ring a bell. If you came to the doctor's office and needed surgery, they'd ring a bell outside the office to let the town know that surgery was going to happen, and they needed some strong men to come in and hold the patient down. So Dr. Long convinced James Venable that he could remove the cyst and he wouldn't feel any pain. And so you can see here where he is like inhaling the ether on a cloth, and he removed one of the tumors or the cyst, and when he kind of came to, he's like, well, when are you going to start? And he's like, he had to show it to him in his hand. He's like, I have already finished, and you didn't feel any pain. So that's when history was made, the first painless surgery. After Dr. Long did the surgery, I really wasn't going to get into this, but because we don't like to talk about those people up in Boston, there was a Dr. Morton and Wells dentist up in Boston that they did a similar type surgery 4 years after Dr. Long did, and they published their results. Boston's a metropolitan city, and so they published it, and Dr. Long had, unfortunately he was never recognized in his lifetime as being the discoverer. It was eventually when his daughters took up the crusade after his death, it was proven that his signed affidavits, proved that he was the first to do painless surgery. He was just not the first to publish the results. He was a country doctor. He was busy. But there were some tributes to him before the museum was established. The first one was the monument that stands on the square. It was dedicated in 1910. I have a little pointer here. Where is it? That one. That's the monument that was dedicated in 1910. And then, more importantly, is in 1926, this marble statue was dedicated in Statuary Hall in Washington, D.C. And the same statue stands in front of the courthouse in Danielsville as well. Why we got an obelisk, I don't know. I wish we had the full statue like that. But it's an interesting story about the statues at the Capitol is that each state can have two important people from their state represented, and the two representing Georgia are Dr. Long and Alexander Stevens. And a little known fact is that at UGA, Dr. Long and Alexander Stevens were actually roommates. Crawford was the youngest student, and Alexander Stevens was the oldest. So they had the nicknames of Baby and Daddy. Another tribute to Long was Stamp Day. He had a 2-cent stamp with his portrait on it, and they did an unveiling or a first day cover, first day release in Jefferson on April 8th, 1940. And it drew crowds of an estimated 10,000 people to the little downtown of Jefferson. He was selected to be on the Famous American series, which also had, John Otteman and Walter Reed, who, among some others that were in that series. But the biggest tribute to Dr. Long was the opening of the Memorial Museum. And although this two-story brick building, which opened to the public in 1957, is not the original building where Dr. Long did the first painless surgery, it is on the same, it was a wooden structure at the time when it was Dr. Long's office, but it's on the same foundation and it's on the site of where Dr. Long's office once stood. I know you had mentioned something about Steinhaus. In the back there. Yes, Dr. Steinhaus and Dr. Boland and some people from Jefferson were very instrumental in the years prior to in getting the museum open. This is, the first 17 years that the museum was there, it was operated by the Georgia Historical Commission. And then unfortunately, in 1975, the Georgia Department of Natural Resources decided that they were going to have to close the museum because of financial cutbacks in the state operating funds. So that's when the citizens of Jefferson and the city of Jefferson assumed ownership. And this is a Jackson Herald photo from the newspaper showing the Historical Commission turning over the keys to Frary Elrod. He was selected by the Mayor Bird Bruce to actually look over the museum. And so from that time on, it was really operated through a nonprofit association and through volunteer efforts. This is a picture from what was like 1986, 87 expansion. They did a major expansion in adding the two buildings on either side of the original museum. And they made it ADA accessible. It has an elevator. It has interior ramps connecting the three buildings, at the three historic buildings. But the building on the front here is the Pendergrass General Store. And it's a Greek Revival style building, but it's also the only business structure still standing, pre-Civil War, that's still standing in Jefferson. It also added, I don't know that you can see it as well in this picture, but on the other side, this is the two-story original museum, and then it added the Pendergrass store, and then over here was Dr. Stovall's office. That's actually our entry building now, and where our gift shop is. Oops. Okay, I'm going too fast here. Let me back up. So this is what the museum looks like today. It has a new coat of paint. It looks a little better. But so for those of you that don't know where it's located, it's right on the public square in Jefferson, and it's like 20 miles southeast of Gainesville, and it's like 60 miles northeast of Atlanta. So after 20 years, it was the time for more renovations. The structures were in need of repair. And so in September of 2007, the nonprofit actually decided, they voted to transfer the assets of the museum to the city of Jefferson. And then Jefferson was was able to apply for an Appalachian Regional Commission grant to do the renovations. So with the grant and with some existing association funds, we closed for 19 months and did major structural stuff. We had to scrape the Pendergrass store and have that painted. We had to do masonry piers to jack the store up and support it. We had to repair the structural brick. You can see here that the building, the original building had 4 layers of brick there. That's considered structural brick. We had to redo all the exhibits. We had to put in new windows, new roof, new wiring, new lighting. It was a major, major overhaul. And so after that, we had to redo all the exhibits. So you can see that the diorama, which I showed you the drawing from, the diorama that shows the how the first surgery happened, it's still the main focal point of the long gallery. And back in 1957, when that was built for the opening of the museum, it was state-of-the-art technology. Today, it's all digital, it's all electronic, but this is such a perfect example of how the first surgery happened. That we keep it and everybody loves it. You know, we're very fortunate to have a lot of family heirlooms that belong to Dr. Long. We have his medicine bag, which is right here. This was in his possession the night that he died. He was on a house call delivering a baby, and he had an aneurysm, and he told them, you know, tend to the mother and child before me, and he ended up dying. So we also have his, can't see it from this picture, but we have his gold pocket watch. His father was a stockholder in the Delaware gold mine, and so he had a nice pocket watch made for each of his sons. And when, during the Civil War, when Dr. Long was living in Athens at the time, he heard that the Union raiders were on their way to Athens. So he gave his pocket watch and his signed witness affidavits from his, you know, the ones that had witnessed his first surgery, to his daughter, and told her to put him in a mason jar and tie him underneath her, with a rope, and put him underneath her skirt to go bury him so that they wouldn't get stolen. But the raiders got stopped in Winer. They didn't make it to Athens, so everything was recovered. But we're very fortunate. We have his glasses, his chest set, his wedding tie. He was late to his own wedding, but she married him anyway. The bulk of that donation of all of the family heirlooms was from Crawford Long's grandniece, Elizabeth Tech. And this is some of our Pendergrass store exhibits. This is a recreated doctor's office and apothecary. And then this is an exhibit called A Woman's Work Is Never Done. So I want to point out something here. Right here is a foot-powered churn. The women were expected to multitask back then. You know, they could feed the baby and they could churn the milk or the whatever. But you know, we had the Pendergrass store is where we have usually our revolving temporary exhibits. Upstairs we have the development of anesthesia exhibit. And this has example displays of early inhalation masks and dropper bottles and some handheld inhalation devices. But we also have 11 anesthesia machines that span almost a century of development, from 1914 to 2002. I'm still waiting for somebody to give me a current digital one to put in there, you know? Okay. We also have at the museum a very impressive collection of art depicting Dr. Long. Some surgical procedures, members of his family. This is his wife, Mary Caroline Swain, and homes associated with him. I don't have any pictures of the watercolors of the homes, but so that's sprinkled throughout the museum as well. And then now that I've kind of told you about the history of Dr. Long, I want to kind of tell you about what the current status of the museum and what we're doing. One of the strengths of the museum has been to adapt to changing circumstances and to pursue new opportunities as a cultural institution. By diversifying our programming and our exhibits, this small museum has been around for over 60 years now. and has managed to thrive in basically a rural community. So some of the programs that we do now are, we do quarterly wisdom in a workshop type things that are, we try to cater to the community on what they like to do. It could be anything from learning the history of the May Day and the May Day and the maypole and making May baskets to painting wine glasses. I mean, it's just a variety of things that we do. Here's some pictures of some of our after-hours workshops. You can see we don't have as much space as you do here, so we're kind of crowded. We always fill up our workshops. An annual event that we do is our Victorian Teen, and for 7 years, it just continues to grow. We started it 7 years ago in the museum in our little workshop area, and obviously outgrew that space pretty quickly, and then we moved it to the Jefferson Clubhouse and had it there for several years, and then just this year we moved it to the Jefferson Civic Center, and we had like 137 ladies that came for Victorian Tea and program and all that. It's pretty exciting to see how it's grown over the years. We do kid-friendly programs. We have a summer history camp every summer. This year we did, our theme was fur, fins, and feathers, and it was important animals in history. We filled up, we can only take 24 campers, we don't really have any more space than that. And we had animal visitors just about every day. You know, they learned about Balto the dog that delivered the life-saving serum. They learned about Dolly the sheep that, the first cloned sheep. We had baby lambs and sheep. I mean, we had llamas. It was a full week. And at the holidays, we do things for kids as well. We have photos with Santa in the Pendergrass Store Gallery, and we do stories in the store and free hot chocolate and things like that. So, we try to cater to the families in the community. And then a real popular event is our fall, that we do in the fall, is our Haints and Saints Cemetery Tour. It's basically a living history weekend where we bring back Jefferson's past residents and go in, their rich history it starts at the museum. Tours leave, it's an hour-long walking tour. They leave every 30 minutes from the museum. And the Woodbine Cemetery is kind of directly catty-corner across the square from the museum. So your guide holding the lantern will take you into the museum, and you'll come up to a gravestone, and that person will be brought back to life, and they'll tell their story. This year was, the last year we did it, the theme was Legends, Lore, and Love Letters. We had love letters that we found in our vault that were over 100 years old from Ned Pendergrass and the ladies that were writing him. And notice I said ladies, they got a little, they found out about each other, and it was very interesting. And so we had those ladies, portrayed by some of our Jefferson Community Theater people that told the story of those love letters. So we also told a little lore. It's like for the past years that we've done it, people are like, well, we wanted it to be spooky. We expect it's not spooky. It's like, well, this is living history. This is not really spooky. So, so we threw a little lore in there, like I don't think I've ever heard the story, the lore of soap salad. Soap salad. Okay, my mama used to tell me about soap salad. I'll have to tell you all that later. Soap salad. Don't want to get caught by soap salad. Excuse me. Doctor's Day is celebrated every year on March 30th because that's the day that Dr. Long did the first painless surgery, March 30th, 1842. So in celebration of that and recognition of that, museum staff and volunteers actually prepare red carnations, which are the symbol of Doctor's Day, and we deliver them to almost 300 local doctors and hospitals. So we also put a wreath on the Long Monument out on the square. This is preparing them, and this is kind of delivering some of the carnations. So, you know, the first Doctor's Day was actually held, first Doctor's Day celebration, I should say, was held in Winder, and that was, let me see, I want to make sure I'm telling you the right date here. Can't read all my notes. 1937. And since President George Bush's proclamation in 1991, Doctor's Day is recognized nationally. We added an audio tour option in 2016. That's the wands that you listen to and the little charging station. And we have a gift shop. I've bought a few things for door prizes afterwards from our gift shop. But Jefferson is recognized as a bee city. And as part of the initiative for the, you know, the bee city, whoa, what have I done? Okay, don't give me a clicker, don't give me, you know, let's see if I can find this again. Help me. I don't know what to do. I'm back to the beginning of my show. That's your screensaver, but that's, I held it too long, I guess. Anyway, we have a beehive on top of the museum. That's what I was trying to point out, but I obviously pushed the wrong button.
Oh, they have made it worse.
While he's doing that, I have a question.
Okay.
Did Crawford Long, did he help develop any of the early inhalation machines?
I don't think so.
So he
No,
was always,
I've never seen anything in our research about that.
so he was always a cloth?
The handheld was Morton in Boston actually developed the handheld where they put the sponge in the bottom of it and then you put your mouth on the little thing. The problem with that kind of inhalation, administering it that way is that the gases are going in the room and everybody's, you know, everybody's. So in our gift shop, when I was getting ready to show you our beehive, we sell Crawford Long's Heavenly Honey that comes from our beehive. And we also have other unique little things in there, like ether bunnies and yay!
There we go.
We have ether bunnies, and we have Crawford Long's Heavenly Honey, and we have God Ether T-shirts. So
You were next.
hopefully I won't mess anything up anymore if I hold this too long. But our latest tribute, which was last November, was the dedication of a Georgia historical marker. And so we had like over 100 people show up that morning for the unveiling of the marker. And this is Andy Garrison. I'm not going to try to point to it. He is a local businessman that likes to portray Dr. Long for us. So he came and assisted with the unveiling of the marker that morning. And we have some fun little photo opportunities. We have a little stand-in kind where you can pretend you're Dr. Long or you're a witness. And we have a really nice mural, the first use of anesthesia, across the street, directly across the street from the opening of the museum. And then earlier this year, when the museum first opened, you didn't go to school anywhere in Jackson County that you didn't come through the museum. But because of school budgets being cut so much, our school tours have almost they decline, they're almost non-existent. So when one of our board members learned that, he wanted to bring all of Jefferson Academy through the museum. It was fabulous. We did 6 tours a day, 6 days in a row to get all 900 students through the museum. And they used, you can see over there, they're using like a little story card. There's a set of story cards that we developed, and they worked on their team building skills, and they had to find the pictures on the story cards. And once their group found it, then they would turn it over and they would read the rest of the story about that particular item. So you can see that there's usually something happening at the museum all year long. That's his signature, in case you didn't know. But today's program does strategically focus around local history and just active community involvement. So I have brought some stuff with me tonight. I wanted to show you our rack card. I have them stacked over here. If you'll look right down here on the rack card, you'll see there's a little round thing that says, bring this in, it's good for a free audio tour. So free audio tour rental, so if you think you're going to come to the museum, I hope you will, please pick up a card and you'll get a free audio tour. And then I also have a flyer that was produced that lists, if you're really interested in it, please pick up one. It lists all of the tributes that have been made to Dr. Long. You know, the county named after him, the school named after him, the roads named after him, there was a warship named after him. I mean, it's so lots of tributes made to him. And then this is my contact information, and if you would like to contact me, please feel free, and let's give away some door prizes. Y'all have your little ticket stubs? Anybody have any questions? Oh gosh, forgot I was connected. Is Crawford Long what?
Was the Crawford Long Hospital in Atlanta?
That was named after him, yes, and unfortunately, when we were closed for renovation for those 19 months, that's when Emory decided to drop the name and change it to Emory at Midtown.
Were they able to use it extensively on Civil War injuries?
Yes. Hollywood wants you to think that, it was terrible that they didn't have any, but they used chloroform and ether for amputations. They did a lot of that in the war.
Was there a relationship between Doc Holliday and Long?
Yes. I'm glad I forgot to mention that. It's just kind of a little tidbit. He asked if there was a relation to Doc Holliday, and yes, there was. Doc Holliday was actually kin to Dr. Long, and we don't have any definitive records about it, but it's pretty well known that because of the family relation, that he did the surgery on Doc Holliday's cleft palate.
How old was he?
He was 62. That is very young, but of course you have to think about back then, the lifespan wasn't as long as today. So, any more questions? I am so excited to be here. Y'all are a wonderful audience.
Did he ever have a partner? Or
Pardon?
did anyone ever take over his practice when he died?
Yes, when he left. When he died. I don't know. When he left Jefferson, he sold his practice to his cousin, David Long. And then David Long sold it to Dr. Pendergrass. But his practice in Athens, he was in practice with his brother, so I just assume.
So he died in Athens?
Yes, he did. He lived in Jefferson for, I want to say 7 years, moved to Atlanta for not even a full year, decided he did not want to raise his family there. So, yeah, right? So that's when he moved to Athens, and he went into partnership with his brother and opened his practice and a drugstore, a big drugstore. In fact, another story about the war is that he knew that the war was going to happen. So he stockpiled in his drugstore a bunch of manufactured drugs out of the north. So Athens was one of the last places to run out of drugs when the Union blockades went into effect because of his forethought to stockpile that. So anything else before we draw some numbers? Y'all need a magnifying glass or you really need to read? Jesse?
How did the word spread from that first surgery to other doctors over the country using it?
How did the word spread? Well, I really don't know. I think for a while he was just trying to not publicize it because there was the chance of being ridiculed as being witchery or something, so he was still testing his theory for a while, but then when he heard about the doctors in Boston is when he was like, well, wait a minute, I've been doing that I did that 4 years ago. So, the Congress was going to award, I forget how much money it was, to the discoverer of anesthesia, and because there became so much controversy with who was first, then they never did award it. And it was, like I said, it wasn't until after his death that his daughters really took up the crusade to prove with his affidavits that he was the first to do painless surgery. The guys in Boston were the first to publish it, which was 4 years. And, Long eventually published, but it wasn't until after the folks in Boston.
What did the wife do other than turn that?
She had a lot of kids. They had 12 kids. Only 7 lived to adulthood, though.
Did he use it for childbirth, and did
He did. He used it on his wife.
And did he use midwives, or were men just delivering babies?
I think I don't know that he used midwives, because when he died, he was on a house call delivering a baby. So, anything else before we start?
All right.
Okay.
I'll be the runner.
You'll be the runner? Okay.
I'll let you.
I don't know if I can read it. Let's see. Okay, 676-960. All right. Oh, you're gonna run.
I'll run.
You run.
What should I give them?
Okay, any of these little things, and then we'll do these two last.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
You want to confirm these? These people are generally dishonest.
676-918. 918. Woo-hoo. Well, I hope I didn't put y'all to sleep.
You can give this to Cheryl.
676-926. 676-955.
That's you. There you go.
676-985. 676-975. 677-000. Woo! Come on down.
I never read anything.
Oh, did I sling my one?
Wait, who was that? Oh,
Right there.
you owe me a membership now. You promised.
676-961. 961. Going once, going twice. No 961. All right, how about 676, 967? Okay, now we have an ether buddy. Ether buddy. That is 676940. All right. And then we have a Got Ether t-shirt in a little stocking. 676963. Do what? No, unfortunately that's a large. I figured that was my best bet on it. You can sleep in it, right? But please feel free to come take any of these, the rack card that has the free audio tour offer on the back of it. We have membership brochures if you'd like to become a member of the museum. If you guys want to come do a tour of the museum, contact us. We would love to set you up and have y'all come visit us. We're only 20 miles down the road. It's the birthplace of anesthesia.
Don't push it to sleep. History's so good, push it to sleep.
Right. Thank you. Okay, good.
So, that's a door prize extravaganza if ever I saw it. So we have, our forum next month is actually one that was rescheduled from long ago. Mr. Jeffrey Whitehead with the Corps of Engineers is going to come and talk to us about Beaufort Dam and Lake Lanier from an engineering perspective. He was originally supposed to do it right before Hurricane Irma hit. What was that, 2 years ago? And then he found himself a little busy immediately after that. But he's coming, heading in another hurricane next month to talk to us about that. And then for November's forum, just to give you a heads up, we'll be doing one of our board members, Ron Stowe from Crestland, will be talking about the fall of the Berlin Wall. So, and don't forget our family days. Family day, you just missed the one where you could come and play games. We taught dancing, fencing, and kids how to gamble. So you missed that one. But next month in October, you will be able to travel all the way back to ancient Rome and see the glory that was the legions. What does that have to do with Northeast Georgia history? You'll have to come to find out. And that's free thanks to the Iowa Transportation Fund and the Iowa Transportation Center. But with that, I want to wish all of you a great evening. It truly is so good to see this room so full and to see so many faces out here. Thanks so much, and I can't wait to see you next time at the History Center. Have a safe trip home.